morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Friday, the 19th of December, 2008. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in Princeton. It's 4:30 p.m. in London, and it's 9:30 a.m. in Mexico City. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL Instant Mail address is CATEX TV. We have a breaking story. It's coming in from Atlanta. Apparently, a pedestrian bridge under construction collapsed this morning about half an hour ago near the entrance of the Atlanta Botanical Gardens, killing one worker and injuring 17 others. Dozens of police officers, construction workers, and firefighters were at the entrance to the garden, which itself is next to a popular park for joggers and dog walkers. So we're waiting to get some TV footage. I'm sure CNN has it if you want to see it. The bridge is part of a walking trail and arched over a ravine. So that was a collapse of a bridge under construction. Now to our main news. About an hour or so ago, President Bush finally appeared in the White House and announced the lifeline to the auto industry. He said that the troubled car industry will receive emergency loans of $13.4 billion from the federal government in return for an extensive restructuring of its outstanding debt and labor costs. The bailout was announced and means that the domestic U.S. auto industry can continue to operate as it weathers a global economic downturn and an imminent cash crisis, which had threatened GM and Chrysler with literally bankruptcy by the end of this year, which is in 2 weeks. Funds for the loans will come from the Troubled Asset Relief Program, known as TARP, initially set up to aid the financial industry. An additional $4 billion will be available in February. However, the money will come with some strings attached. Although the White House will not appoint a car czar to oversee the industry, the companies will have to restructure their wage agreements so that they are competitive with foreign automakers by the end of next year. In addition, by March 31st of this year, the companies will have to show that they are financially viable and able to repay the government. This is a requirement that may force them to renegotiate outstanding debt and other agreements. The bailout comes after the White House deliberated a number of options, including the so-called orderly bankruptcy, which of course would be anything but. As the White House raised the prospect of bankruptcy, senior officials at the Treasury Department coalesced around an alternative that would reshape the companies but not require them to file bankruptcy protection. Secretary of the Treasury Paulson has said repeatedly that federal help for Detroit must put the companies on track for long-term viability and simply delay their collapse. Of course, this requirement was not extended to AIG or to any of the other banks and countless financial groups that have been assisted already through the TARP. And it's important to know that in 28 days there will be a new president and a new Treasury Secretary. The stock market seems to like what they've heard. It's up about 90 points now. Genworth Financial, which if you're my age and receive mailers from the American Association of Retired Persons, you know that Genworth provides their long-term care insurance, announced last night that it would cut 1,000 jobs, or about 14% of its global workforce, to boost its cost and capital positions. Genworth, of course, was spun out from GE several years ago. The job cuts and other moves are expected to reduce operating expenses by up to $150 million a year by the end of next year. The company expects to record a $45 million charge in the fourth quarter of this year for severance, outplacement, and other costs related to the cuts and restructuring. Genworth saw its credit ratings cut last month after it suspended its dividend and share repurchase plan and kicked in $500 million to its life operating companies from the holding company level. Genworth is also considering asset sales, raising equity or debt capital, and reviewing its U.S. mortgage insurance business as it cuts costs. There's a rumor floating around yesterday that investor Warren Buffett might be lining up a bid for Bermuda-based insurer XL Capital. The 78-year-old Buffett, of course, owns U.S. insurance giant Berkshire Hathaway. He's been buying up companies at an increasing rate during the ongoing credit crisis, mainly because he's one of the few people left with money. XL shares climbed as much as 28% yesterday on the NYSE on the news, closed up at about $3.93. The rumor was reported by Bloomberg yesterday quoted a gentleman named Frederick Ruffey, the senior options strategist at wattstrading.com, a New York-based options market analysis, as saying, the shares were up on talk that Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway might be interested in taking a position at XL. Jackie Wilson, a spokesman for Buffett, did not respond to a request from Bloomberg for comment. News from Tokyo this morning. As expected, the Bank of Japan has cut its benchmark interest rate to 0.1%. This is an attempt to counter the global financial downturn's effect on the Japanese economy. The central bank voted 7-1 this morning in favor of reducing the benchmark rate from 0.3%. The rate reduction comes after the U.S. Federal Reserve cut its rate to between 0 and 25 basis points. The bank also said that it would start buying commercial paper short-term debts that are used by companies to run their daily operations. The Nikkei index rose a whole percent after the cut emerged before dropping again. We'll now go to a word from our sponsors and come back with the rest of the news.
From prehistoric times to today, man's progress has been marked by his ability to fashion tools and use them to his advantage. From early humans making tools from stone, man evolved and was soon trading with other men. Money evolved, and tools such as the abacus to handle complex money transactions were developed. By the end of the 19th century, machines such as the cash register began to appear. 100 years later, we have even better computer-driven machines which track stock, change prices, and automatically reorder. Meanwhile, the reinsurance industry has failed to embrace man's drive for progress. The reinsurance industry today would be as familiar to practitioners from the 1800s as it is to modern underwriters. An underwriter or broker from 1800 would settle nicely into today's business. That is, until now. For the reinsurance industry, pivot point changes everything. Soon it will be understood that the period before pivot point was as dark as the caveman period was before the abacus. Come and see for yourself if you don't believe. After a demonstration, you will understand what is possible.
At 6:19 p.m. local time last evening, the nation of Chile up in the northern part of the country was whacked by two strong earthquakes. The U.S. Geological Survey says that a strong 6.3 quake rattled the coastal area near the city of Valparaiso. That quake struck about 45 miles north of Valparaiso, was followed a half an hour later by a 5.8 earthquake. The USGS is saying that both were strong quakes, but it would not be expected to cause large, widespread damage. We're not getting any reports from Chile yet as to whether or not there was any large, widespread damage. And in a very unusual locale, there's now been 2 nights of rioting in the southern Swedish town of Malmö. Last night, for the second night, a gang of about 100 youths rioted in the southern Swedish city, setting cars ablaze and garbage cans ablaze and throwing stones at police. Police said, "We've had a very difficult evening. There have been fires burning here since this afternoon, and there's extensive damage to public property." One person was arrested. The troubles apparently are linked to the recent closure of an Islamic cultural center in Malmö's heavily immigrant-populated neighborhood of Rosengård. The decrease in the price of oil has had a number of precipitous effects around the world. Many people are expecting, for example, that the country of Dubai, which has embarked upon a massive construction